witness, we'd like an offer of proof, and if that witness is present, I'd like for the witness to step out. And then I want to have an argument with the witness, if I might.
All right, can you have your witness step outside, please? All right, Ms. Clark, who is your next witness?
My next witness, Your Honor, is Kim Goldman. She will testify that she found the uniform that has been marked as People's 30 in Ron Goldman's apartment hanging over a door inside his apartment on June the 15th when she went to collect his things.
And that's the items that have previously been marked as, was it 31?
I thought it was
The
30.
bag?
Not
I'm sorry.
30?
Number 30. Mr. Cochran?
Right here.
Certainly.
With regard to this item, Your Honor, the court will recall, we approached the witness before. It seems that Ms. Clark would like to show the clothes to every witness who comes in. This is not a particular moment in this case in the final analysis. We're willing to stipulate. Ms. Goldman would stipulate as to where she found the particular clothing and save some time. Each witness to be shown the pants and the clothes that he was not wearing later on that evening, and I think that it's a 352 problem after a period of time, and I just wanted to try and save some time in that regard. If it might be more persuasive to have called Ms. Goldman had she not seen fit to show these clothes to Ms. Crawford, and then to show them to another person before that. So it'll be 3 times a day we've seen a white shirt and some black pants. I think we do reach the point where there's no chain of custody and no argument on this particular point. So why then would they continue showing them? I could speculate, but I don't think I need to do that. And I would ask the court to either accept that stipulation so we can move on.
People?
Yes, Your Honor. What Mr. Cochran wants to do is stipulate away anything that might personalize the case and make an indication that there is a real person, human being, associated with the name Ron Goldman.
That aspect so much, Ms. Clark. What is the probative value of this proffer?
Yeah. First of all, let me indicate to the court, I'm not going to take the clothing out of the bag. The witness brought the bag in. She can tell us what the contents are and where she found them, but the offer of proof is to indicate that he did go home and change clothes, that these clothes were found out loose, that he changed in a hurry, and they were found hanging off a door because he was found in other clothing at the crime scene.
Is that relevant to some timing issue? Yes. How so?
Because he left the restaurant at 10 of 10, and it is the people's contention that the murders occurred roughly around 10:15 to 10:20. It will indicate that there was not a large amount of time spent in his apartment before he departed for Bundy. So it goes to the amount of time and the manner in which the clothing was found. Clothing found in disarray as opposed to neatly placed in a hamper, this kind of thing would indicate...
Neatly placed in a hamper?
Well, you know, put away. The clothing was left draped over a door, which indicates that it was done hurriedly.
All right, Mr. Cochran.
Your Honor, that is the rankest form of speculation. If they'd done their job in investigating this case, they would have perhaps determined whether or not Mr. Goldman had taken time to take a shower or whatever. They can't speculate and tell whether that happened. We know that he changed clothes, and that's the relevant thing. It's only now we find out that it's not going to be taken out of the bag. It would have been better if she hadn't taken out of the bag those other 2 times. She'd have sounder ground to stand on. So the proffer is, all I'm saying, Your Honor, is that we're willing to stipulate where they were found and to move on. Everything else is speculative. And now we find the change of the time of death is starting to move backwards. When they had the opening statement, it was 10:15. Now it's 10:15 or 10:20. But we finish, it's going to be 11 o'clock. And that's where we're going. And so it seems to me this is all speculation. We should try this case based upon the evidence without the prosecution whining and moaning. Let's just get it over with. And without taking things out of bags with every witness. Let's just try this case and stop, engaging in tricks and legerdemain.
Your Honor, I really resent these issues.
Well, Ms. Clark, hold on. Ms. Clark. All right, Ms. Clark. Ms. Clark, please. Thank you. Maybe that objection was better suited to the last 2 witnesses rather than this witness. But if this is the witness who found it and the manner in which he found it and timing is an issue, it is relevant. It does have probative value. But I take it this is very short.
Very short.
All right.
Not on the bad, Your Honor, she had representation.
That's a representation I have.
Right.
Let's proceed. Objections overruled.
Let me indicate for the record, Your Honor, that if I didn't take the clothing out of the bag for the other witnesses to see, they couldn't testify to whether he wore those clothes that night. It was
Well,
shown within the
all they
record.
can say is he wore something like that. Black pants and a white shirt. This is more interesting now. All right, let's have the witness, Deputy Browning. Let's have the jury, Deputy McNamara. We may call the next witness.
People call Ms. Kim Goldman.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, I do. Please have a seat in the witness stand and state your son your first and last names for the record.
Kimberly Goldman, Kimberly Goldman.
Thank you.
Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Goldman, are you the sister of Ron Goldman?
Yes, I am.
Did you visit his apartment on Gorham shortly after June the 12th?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us when?
The first time was on, I believe, Wednesday, January 15th, day before his funeral.
June 15th,
June 15th,
1994?
correct?
And why did you go?
I needed to get a suit for his funeral.
Did you recover some clothing that you brought to court today?
Yes, I did.
And I'm showing you the bag in which we have previously marked as People's 30, the white shirt and the black pants. Do you
Yes, that's
recognize
correct.
those?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us where you found them?
They were draped over his bedroom door, the shirt and the pants.
Just draped over?
Obviously he'd taken them off and just swung them over the door.
Okay, not on hangers.
No, my father and I put them on the hangers.
Did you see any other white dress shirt or black pants like that
No,
in
I
the
did not.
apartment? Only those?
Only those.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Mr. Cochran. All right. Ms. Goldman, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
accused. Next witness.
People call Mr. Pablo Fenjves.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please have a seat in the witness stand and state and spell your first and last names for the record.
My name is Pablo Fenjves. That's Pablo Fenjves.
All right, Mr. Fenjves, if you would, I'm sorry. There we go. Thank you. Ms. Clark.
Thank you. Mr. Fenjves, directing your attention to the date of June the 12th, 1994. As of that date, can you tell us approximately where you lived?
I lived,
Where is that in relationship to 875 South Bundy?
We share a common back alley, and I'm about 60 or 70 yards north.
Let me get you to speak into the microphone.
Thank you. We share a common back alley, and I'm about 60 or 70 yards north of the condo that Nicole Simpson ran.
Can you look at your monitor, sir? Thank you. Can you indicate to us on this photograph where your house would be?
It would be approximately where the police patrol car is parked, just to the left of that.
So just to the left as you face it?
Right,
All
just
right.
to our left.
Okay. And then would 875 South Bundy be this area here that I'm circling, if you can see?
Yes, it appears to me that there's a vehicle parked. There's a vehicle parked in the drive of 875.
Okay, thank you. And this is, should mark this photograph as People's next in order. People's 38? 38? People's 38.
All right, People's 38.
Now, what portion of your apartment faces that alley?
It's a three-story building, and the top floor is the master bedroom, which faces the alley. Then there's a kitchen, and then below that, I have my office, and that's pretty well sealed off, and you can't see out into the alley.
If you look out your master bedroom, are you able to see the back of 875 South Bundy?
I'm able to see the what seems to be a porch area and a row of windows along the top floor, but that's about all I can see.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your last answer, sir?
I can see a sort of balcony area with a row of windows across what seems to be the top floor or stairwell leading to the top floor.
So your view is limited.
Yes, it is.
Can I get you to keep your voice up?
Yes, it is.
Showing you the map of the Bundy area that previously marked as People's 26. Can you point out the place where your home is shown?
I think if this is the alley here, this would be my home right here.
Did everybody hear that answer? The jury?
Can you try to say that
Yes.
again?
This is, if this being the alley here, this is my home over here.
And can you show us where 875 South Bundy would be?
I imagine this would be 875 South Bundy.
That red square?
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Did you know Nicole Brown, sir?
No, I did not.
Had you seen her before?
Just in the neighborhood, we had a similar jogging route, and I'd seen her in her car pulling into the alley once or twice. That was about it.
Did you did you know where she lived back in June of 1994?
No, I didn't know where she lived, and I didn't know who she was.
On June the 12th of 1994, sir, in the evening, where were you?
At 10 o'clock that evening, I was watching the news in the master bedroom on the third floor with my wife.
Okay, and that's the master bedroom that faces the alley that you share with 875 South Bundy?
That is correct.
You were watching the 10 o'clock news with your wife?
Yes.
And for how long did you watch the news?
Well, about 15 or 20 minutes into it, I became aware of a barking sound, and then I probably stopped watching the news shortly thereafter.
So it was approximately 15 minutes after the news began that you started to hear a dog barking?
Yes.
Is that a bark?
Tell us.
15 or 20 minutes into it, I heard a very distinctive barking coming from somewhere to the south of where I live. And I was aware of it for maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes, and at that point I stopped watching the news and I left the master bedroom.
Was there something unusual about that dog barking that drew your attention to it?
It was it was fairly persistent. It was at a significant pitch, and as you may recall, I described it at the time as a plaintive wail. It sounded like a, very unhappy animal.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, sir.
It sounded like a very unhappy animal.
And that's what drew your attention?
Yes, it did.
Had you ever heard dogs barking in the neighborhood before?
Yeah, there's plenty of dogs barking in the neighborhood, but this was, as I said, persistent and unusual and unhappy.
So did you stay and listen to the barking for a while before you went downstairs?
No, I don't recall whether I went and looked. I believe I may have gotten up and looked through the shutters, and then I went downstairs to my office.
About what time was it when you went downstairs to your office?
I'd say around 10:20.
And by that time, you'd heard the dog barking for how long?
As I said, it could have been 5 minutes, it could have been 7, 8 minutes.
When you went downstairs to your office, was the dog still barking?
I don't recall at that point. I was going down the inner stairwell and I wasn't aware of it. And when I eventually got to my office is pretty soundproof. And I started working and I was focused on what I was doing. So whether the dog was barking or not, I can't tell you.
At the time that you first heard the dog barking, could you tell from what direction it seemed to be coming?
Yes, it seemed to be coming from basically the area south corner of Dorothy and Bundy.
From this area?
Yes, from that area.
Did you stay?
This picture, because the picture here was not marked or anything, is from this area.
The objection is foundation.
No foundation.
Thank you.
Do you,
Sustained.
sorry. Sir, do you recognize what's depicted in this photograph?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
That is Nicole's house.
From the rear view?
Yes, from the alley view.
And is that where the barking seemed to be coming from, this area?
Objection, that's leading suggestion. Witness says
Sustained.
Dorothy and Bundy.
Where did the barking seem to be coming from?
It seemed to be coming from the general area of Dorothy and Bundy, and this particular unit was very much in the line of my view.
So that when you went out, well, strike that. You stayed down in your office for how long?
35 minutes, 40 minutes. I came back upstairs at 11 o'clock.
And when you came back upstairs at 11 o'clock, was the barking still audible?
Yes, it was.
Where did you go when you came upstairs at 11 o'clock?
I got in bed.
And when you got in bed, was the dog still barking?
Yes, he was.
What did you do at that point?
I was reading for a little while. I mentioned to my wife that I was concerned about the dog. Our own dog was on the bed and he was reacting to the barking by growling a little bit. And I think I went back and took another look through the shutters, and I noticed the line of windows at the residence, and there was a light on. And I assumed that somebody was home, and there were a lot of units, as you can see from the map, that were closer to the sound. So I thought somebody may have already done something about it.
So you felt that there might have been something wrong, but someone else may have reported it already?
It was hard to interpret what was going on. The dog didn't sound as if it was in pain or anything like that. It just sounded, as I said, unhappy.
And when you got up to go to the shutters in your master bedroom, you went to look in the direction of where the barking seemed to be coming from.
Yes, that is correct.
And where did you look?
I looked directly toward the condominium in question, and I noticed the row of lights, as I mentioned, and then I went back to bed.
So, and when you say the condominium in question, is that the one depicted in this photograph, which I'd ask be marked Peoples 39?
Yes, that is correct.
And when you went to look in that direction, you were looking there because it was where the dog barking seemed to be coming from?
Staying, leading.
Why did you look in that direction?
I looked in that direction because that's where the barking sound was coming from.
Did you go to sleep immediately at 11 o'clock?
No, I read for a while, and I can't tell you how long I read, but obviously sometime before, within the next 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I fell asleep.
When you fell asleep, could you still hear the dog barking?
I think I may have heard it sporadically, but I was basically trying to focus on what I was reading, and I can't answer that question.
Do you recall hearing it still barking while you were reading?
Yes, for a portion of the time I did hear it initially.
When you first heard the dog barking, after a few minutes, you said you went downstairs?
Yes, that's correct.
And when you came back upstairs, you could still hear it barking?
Yes, but of course there was that period of 30 to 40 minutes when I was away from the master bedroom, and I can't tell you whether it was barking continually.
Because you were in that office that's pretty soundproof, right?
That's correct.
When you came back up, though, and you heard the barking, did it sound like the same dog?
Yes, it was definitely the same dog.
And when you went into your bedroom and got into bed at about 11 o'clock and you could still hear the barking, was that still the same dog?
Yes, it was.
And it was one dog barking?
It was one dog barking distinctively, and if there were other dogs barking, I certainly didn't hear them.
Thank you.
Cochran.
Good afternoon, Mr. Fenjves.
That's an issue.
Directing your attention back to the date of June 12th, 1994, in the evening hours. That was a Sunday evening, was it not, sir?
That is correct, sir.
And you were at home at your residence on Gretna Green, is that correct?
That is correct.
And as I understand your testimony, the 800 block of Gretna Green, you have a vantage point where if you look down this alley, south down the alley, you see the northernmost portion of the residence there on Bundy. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, at the time, on June 12, 1994, you did not know who lived at this particular residence.
No, I did not.
And on that particular evening, so you didn't know it was Nicole Brown Simpson or anyone else at that point, did you?
No, I did not.
All right. And on that evening, as I understand your testimony, you were watching what you believe to be the Channel 5 news at 10 o'clock. Is that right?
That is right.
And you had occasion, did you not, to speak with some members of the Los Angeles Police Department, to wit, Officers Tippin, T-I-P-P-I-N, and Carr, C-A-R-R, along with your wife, whose name is it Jay or Jai?
Jay.
Jay Fenjves, about 9:10 in the morning on June 13th. Is that correct?
That is also correct.
And when you first talked to these police officers, the events from the night before were fairly fresh in your mind. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And of course, in addressing and talking to the police officers, you told them the truth about everything as best you knew, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's true, is it not, that you told the police officers that it was at about between 10:15 and 10:30 p.m. that you and your wife heard a dog barking uncontrollably to the rear of your residence. Is that the way you phrased it to the police officers?
No, first of all, I do not remember telling them 10:15 to 10:30. I remember telling them 10:15 to 10:20.
All right, let me stop you right there. Let me, you and I'd like to approach him with a statement form and have him take a look at it. And I want to have him read something. Counsel, this is page 1003, Sir John.
All right, you may approach.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to ask you, first of all, to read a portion to yourself, and I want to ask you some questions about it. Have you read that, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. I may be allowed to ask a couple of questions from here, Your Honor. So if there's an indication that you indicated to the police that you and your wife had lived at this location at 862 Gretna Green Way for about 2 years, would that be accurate?
Yes, that is accurate.
Would it be accurate that last night, that is June 12, 1994,
What's the purpose of this? Is there impeachment being offered? Not an offer of proof sidebar?
Overruled. Overruled.
last night, June 12, 1994, Witness and his wife were watching the Channel 5 news at 10 o'clock p.m. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
At approximately 10:15 to 10:30 p.m., witnesses heard a dog barking uncontrollably to the rear of their residence. Do you recall so indicating to the police?
I recall actually pointing to the police the specific location that I heard the barking sound coming from.
Now, let me get back to my question. Okay, my question is, do you recall so indicating to the police that at about 10:15 to 10:30, witnesses, you and your wife, heard a dog barking uncontrollably to the rear of their residence? Do you so indicate that to the police? Sir?
No, sir. As I told you, I told them that I heard the dog barking between 10:15 and 10:20.
All right, so if they have that wrong, they're wrong. Is that right?
That is possible because I did not say that.
Okay. Did you then tell the police, sir, that you went outside on your rear porch to look?
No, sir. I did not tell them that either.
You didn't tell the police that either?
No, sir.
That you looked to the south toward Nicole Simpson's residence. Is that correct?
That is correct. I did that from the master bedroom.
All right. Did you go out on the porch and do that?
No, I did not, sir.
All right. Do you have a porch that looks south?
I have a porch, and basically I just popped open the plantation shutters and looked out, and...
Can you listen to the question? Do you have a porch?
Yes, sir, I do have a porch.
Did you ever, on June 12th, in the late evening hours, go out on the porch and look south down that alleyway?
No, sir.
May I ask that counsel be instructed to go back to counsel table?
Well, I'm still not finished with the report.
Is there any other?
Yes, there is. So,
Well, why doesn't he leave the report with the witness?
No, let's,
gee, on this cross-examination, may I proceed?
you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, so in answer to the question, you never went out on this porch, actually, is that right, sir?
No, sir, I do not recall going out on the porch.
And also, at that time, at June 13th, 1994, in the early morning hours, you didn't know whose residence this was down there, did you?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you ever tell the police that he observed a Jeep parked in the driveway but saw no suspects, vehicles, or activity? Did you tell the police that?
I think there was a little bit of misunderstanding, and if I can clarify that.
Okay, let's
No, I did not tell the police that.
That's the question.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness is allowed to explain.
Hold on. He will. Mr. Cochran, I don't see there any need for you to be there at this
Okay,
point.
just one more minute, Your Honor, I'll be on my way.
All right. Well,
Okay,
do you need to show him something that's there?
Yes, I do.
All
I'd
right.
like for him, now, moving on. I'd like for you to read from this point to the end, to yourself. Okay? Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. That now? Yes, okay. Thank you, ma'am. Turn on that.
Yes, please, thank you.
Now, Mr. Fenjves, sir, you never told the police that you observed a Jeep parked in the driveway but saw no suspects, vehicles, activity. You never told them that? Or did you tell them
A variation on that theme may have,
that? Variation on the theme?
yes.
Okay, well, let's see. See if we can figure out what part you told them.
If I could be allowed to explain it.
You will be, you will be.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out whether or not the report is accurate first, and you can explain, sir, okay? Did you, when you looked through your shutters, see a Jeep parked in the driveway that night?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you see any suspects when you looked through your shutters that night?
No, I did not.
Did you see any vehicles when you looked through your shutters that night?
No, I did not.
Did you see any activity when you looked through your shutters that night?
Nothing at all unusual.
And then you also told the officers, did you not, that neither you nor your wife knew who lived in the house at that point. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
And you told the officers, did you not, that the dog continued to bark until you went to bed at approximately 11:30. Is that accurate?
I actually went to bed at 11. I may have gone to sleep by 11:30, but I did tell them that I heard the dog after I had returned to bed.
All right, so that's fairly accurate, 11:30?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Now, let's back up. You wanted to explain to us that you told the officers something that it was obviously not correct in the statement that I read you. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Did you tell them at some point, sir, that you'd seen a Jeep at that location on other occasions? A few days before?
I may have said that I'd seen a Jeep there, but I don't recall that.
All right, you don't recall that at all? All right. And the Jeep, if you saw that Jeep there, what color was it?
The Jeep in question was a green Jeep.
Dark green?
Yes, sir.
All right. And had you
I
seen...
believe it was green.
Okay, your best recollection.
Right.
Okay. And this dark green Jeep, had you seen that at times before June 12th, 1994?
I believe I may have seen that same Jeep in the alley.
Now, with regard to the timing of the evening this happened, you and your wife disagree as to the time that you first heard this barking, don't you?
Do we?
Yeah, do you? I'm asking you.
Not to my recollection.
And she was present during this interview that you had with the police on June 13th, is that correct? Next morning?
Well, she was present for part of it, but they basically focused their attention on me, and she went about some other business she had to take care of.
But she also talked to them also during that interview, did she not?
Very briefly, I believe she did, yes.
Now, sir, after a period of time, whether it was 10, 20, or whatever time, about 5 to 7 minutes after you first heard the barking, you then left from your bedroom area, and that's when you went downstairs to your office area. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And as I understand your testimony, during this period of time, your office is fairly secure.
Yes, sir.
And so you couldn't hear what was going on at that point. Is that a fair statement?
That is correct.
And as I understand further, so that if it's now close to 10:30, you stayed in your office for maybe a half hour thereabouts?
That is correct.
And so then it would be approximately 11 o'clock when you returned back upstairs to the bedroom area. Is that correct?
It was 11 o'clock.
It was 11 o'clock. And now with regard to, you were downstairs in your office somewhere around a half hour?
30 to 40 minutes.
Okay. And your wife, do you know, where was she when you left to go down to your office?
I believe she was, I believe she stayed in the master bedroom.
Okay.
I don't know whether she closed the balcony doors. I have no idea.
Okay. The question now relates to where she was when you left. She was in the master bedroom?
Yes, sir.
And did you ever see her during this 30 to 40-minute period downstairs in your office?
No, sir.
When you returned back upstairs to your office, was she still in the master bedroom?
Yes, she was.
All right. Was she still in the same general area where you had left her?
Yes, whatever she had been watching was just ending, so that's how I knew it was 11 o'clock.
So whatever was on television, was it Dynasty, a reunion, or?
Yes, I think that's what it was, actually.
Dynasty reunion.
Yes,
And it was just about going off at about 11 o'clock, is that right?
that is correct.
When you came back up. All right. And you, as I understand your testimony, when you came back upstairs and now it's 11 o'clock, you know that because Dynasty reunion was going off, this dog was continuing to bark, is that correct?
That is correct.
You could now hear it again at any rate.
Yes, sir.
Had you ever, on nights before June 12th, 1994, heard that dog bark, so you could identify that particular bark?
No, you know, sir, not in that way. I mean, not in a way that would call attention to itself.
Okay. There are a lot of people who walk dogs in that area, isn't that correct?
Yes, sir, including myself.
Including you. You walk dogs.
That's right.
And you indicated in your direct examination you felt this dog and the sound sounded like an unhappy dog, as you described it.
That is correct.
And you had not heard this unhappy dog sound before, right?
That is correct.
In that particular area.
Yes, sir.
That night, as you listened, especially either before you went downstairs to your office or when you came back up, did you hear other dogs barking who sound less unhappy?
Not that I can recall. I mean, certainly nothing that made me sit up and take note.
All right. So with regard to when you looked out of your shutters, was that before you went down to the office or after you came back up?
I believe I looked out of my shutters both times.
All right, so you think you may have looked out twice?
Yes, sir.
You never went out on the porch, but you looked out of the shutters.
That is correct.
And so that you can help the court and jury, sir, when you looked out of this shutter, these shutters are in your bedroom, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You're looking in a southerly direction, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you've described for this court and jury that as you looked in the southerly direction and your belief that this sound of unhappy dog was coming from near the area of Bundy and Dorothy, right?
That is correct.
And can you tell us the residence that you saw on the screen there, how far is that residence from the corner? How many houses is that from the corner?
I believe there's probably 2 houses between that, well, there's actually 1 lot between that residence and the corner. That's
Right.
it.
One lot, 2 houses?
No, 1 lot, 1 house, I believe.
Okay, so 1 lot and 1 house.
No, just one
Okay,
house
just
on
one
one
house.
lot.
All right, you sure about that?
I'm not positive, and obviously there's the unit that is part of the same condominium building. That was the unit next to the one that Nicole Brown Simpson lived in.
But at any rate, so that we're clear, the unit that you came to learn was Nicole Brown Simpson's unit was not on the corner of Bundy and Dorothy.
No, it was not on the corner.
There was at least one unit south of that particular residence. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is right.
And so that we're clear, how far north did you live, your estimation, did you live at that point, north of the corner of Bundy and Dorothy, in yards or feet, sir?
I'd guess 150 yards,
150 yards?
maybe 125 yards.
All right, and having in mind a football field, it would be about 25 yards over and above what would be a regular football field, right?
Right.
And with regard to that unit that you were shown by Ms. Clark, the lighting that you saw, maybe we have that photograph put back up, I'm not sure the number. We put that. The number, I'm not sure this has the number right here. I think it's 39. With regard to that particular unit, the lighting that you see on 39 now, the lighting didn't look like that night, did it, sir?
No, it did not look like that.
Okay, now I want you to be as accurate as you can. As you look down that alley, we understand you're looking from the north toward the south. Looking from the north to the south. Describe for the court and jury.
Objection, that's incorrect.
You're looking well, let me see if I can restate it. You're at north looking toward the south, right?
That's right.
And what I'm asking you to do now is to, describe for us the lighting that night with regard to that building.
Well, with regard to this photograph, I cannot see the windows. They're not included in this photograph, but on the left side of this building,
Yes, sir.
moving toward Bundy, on the top floor, there's a row of windows.
Okay, you can't see what I'm doing. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
You're talking about on the left side or the north side of the building, there's some windows?
Right. That's exactly
Okay.
right.
You couldn't see this portion?
I could not see this
So in
portion.
other words, what's depicted here is not what you could see at all, is that right?
That is correct.
Gee, okay, so you could see the north side of that building. Why did you say G?
Gee,
G, okay, strike G.
gosh.
Okay, thank you.
Stop it.
Okay, oh, yes, Your Honor. Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Now, with regard to this then, sir, you could see the north side of the building, as I'm indicating there. Is that right? Look at this photo, the left side?
That's right.
Okay, and tell us and describe for the court and jury what you could see with regard to that left side, any windows or anything.
There are maybe 3 or 4 windows up there that don't appear to open. I can't tell whether there's any rooms up there. It seems to me it may be some kind of stairwell leading to a deck. That's about all I can tell you.
And you've never been in there at that time, is that correct?
I beg your pardon?
You've never been in the place at that time,
In that
particular unit?
yes, I have, actually. I was there when it
that
was on the
time.
market.
Well, you had been there at the time?
Yes.
And this was before June 12th?
Long before, 2 years ago.
So in 1992?
Right.
Okay. And these windows that you believe where you saw these lights, do you recall seeing those when you were in there in 1992?
And no, sir, I do not.
All right. So you just saw some lighting coming from the windows. Is that what you saw?
That is correct.
And did you see anything else with regard to that side of the building or anything else relating to that particular building at that time?
No, as I think I mentioned, there seems to be some deck area up there and an awning,
All right.
an umbrella that had not been unfurled.
Anything else that you recall seeing at that time?
That's all I can tell you.
All right. How long did you look out of the shutter window on each occasion, if there were two occasions, sir?
Oh, 10, 15 seconds.
Very short, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And ultimately, then, you went to bed and went to sleep sometime around 11:30 that particular night, is that correct?
I got into bed around 11, and I read for a while. And I can't tell you I fell asleep immediately or in 40 minutes.
All right, and would it be correct that you perhaps fell asleep about 11:30 or 11:40?
It's a possibility, yes.
Did you so testify at the preliminary hearing?
I believe I did, yes.
11:30, 11:40, and at that time, that was fairly accurate as far as you know?
As far as I know, yes.
And as far as you know, the dog may have continued to bark later than that, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Would you also indicate or testify that it's not unusual to hear dogs barking in that particular neighborhood?
Yes, sir, I did say that.
And you never at any time went outside in an effort to see where that dog was barking or where that dog was, did you?
No, I did not.
Did you indicate at the preliminary hearing that you usually watch the first 20 minutes or so of the news and it gets into areas that I'm not interested in?
Yes, I think I said the first 15 or 20 minutes of the news, and then it gets into areas I'm not interested in.
Well, would it be helpful for you to see what you actually said? Okay, may I page 27 of his testimony, Your Honor. Preliminary hearing, may I approach page 27, counsel? Well, let me ask you this. Did you just refresh your recollection? Question, is that a 1-hour newscast? Answer, well, I don't know. I usually watch the first 20 minutes of the news, then I it gets into areas I'm not that interested in. Is that correct? Do you remember so testifying?
Yes, I do.
And then you went on to say, question, I see. So you regularly stop watching after about 20 minutes? Answer, about 20 to 25 minutes, yeah. You recall so testifying?
I believe so.
And then you went on to say, and it was about 20 or 25 minutes then into...
Objection, that was the question, not the answer. This witness did not go on to say, counsel went on to say. that it was about...
Let's be clear on the question and answer here.
Okay, may I finish, please? Okay. Let me read this question so we're clear. Question. I see. So you regularly stop watching after about 20 minutes. Answer, about 20 to 25 minutes, yeah. That was the answer. And is that how you so testified, sir?
I believe so.
All right.
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel stopped short of the actual answer for that night.
If you would just sit and be patient, I'm going to get the rest of the transcript. I might be able to
Yes,
conduct
right
this.
here.
Counsel, hold on. Next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. And continuing on, do you recall being asked this question and giving this answer, sir?
Well,
And it was about...
I recall being asked that question, and I think I corrected the question when it was asked.
All right, let me read you the next question and
Okay.
answer. Question, and it was about 20 or 25 minutes then into the newscast that you first heard the dog answer, no, I think, and just like now, Your Honor, objection, Ms. Clark, the witness, it was about 15 or 20 minutes into the newscast that I first heard the dog. The court, excuse me for just one moment. And then goes on the judge admonished the lawyers then, just like now, did you, and then the question, and I'll end it with this, the question was, did you hear the dog continue to bark as you were watching the news? Answer, yes, I did, right?
Right.
Did you ever become aware of any members of the Los Angeles Police Department out and around in that alley south of where you lived that particular night?
No, I did not.
And you, when you awakened the next morning at or about 9 o'clock or whenever you awakened, you had this conversation with the two police officers I talked to you about that next morning on the 13th. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And as you were talking to the police officers, you described for the jury, they were focusing in on you. Did they seem to be writing down what you were saying?
Yes, I believe they were taking notes.
And they would ask you questions and they would write something down on the tablet?
That is correct.
And it's true, is it not, that at some point, did the officers ask you to take a look from your house, looking southerly down that alley there?
That's
they were
right, and I think that's where the confusion arose because we stepped out onto the balcony.
You've answered the question now. They asked you to look south, did they?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then when you looked south, did you say to them at some point that the Jeep was parked there a few days ago? Did you make that statement?
Yes, I believe I did.
And you were referring to the dark green Jeep that you talked about earlier, sir?
Yes, but as I think back on it now, that Jeep was actually there and it was being dusted as we were looking down the alley.
So it was being dusted at that time on June 13th?
Yes, so I was able to say right there where the Jeep is parked.
Okay. And then, but you had not seen that Jeep the night before. You may have
I
seen
had
it.
not seen that Jeep the night
Okay.
before.
And so that we're clear, when you said that Jeep was being dusted, what do you mean by that?
The police technicians were in the area and
They were dusting the Jeep for fingerprints?
For fingerprints, yes, sir.
You saw some powder on the Jeep?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
You are not, you're a dog owner, is that correct?
That's right.
And as such, I presume you've owned a dog for some number of years?
A couple of years, yeah.
You're not an expert in dogs barking as such, are you?
No, sir, I do not pretend to be.
And you can't tell a particular pedigree of a dog, one dog over another, when they bark, can you?
No, I cannot, sir.
And as I understand it, you never, at any time that night, saw a dog.
I did not see a dog.
We have just a moment, Your Honor. Thank you. Statement that I read to you, written by the two officers, Tippin and Carr, you have seen that statement before today, have you not?
I believe it was shown to me during the preliminary hearing, yes.
Right. And have you seen it since that time at all?
No, I have not.
That's the only time you think you saw it?
Yes, sir.
And prior to testifying here, did you have occasion to review or read your preliminary hearing testimony?
Yes, sir, I did.
And who gave you that?
It was supplied for me by the district attorney when I was subpoenaed.
Okay, and they gave you a copy of what you testified about before?
That is correct.
And you read that over, of course?
Yes, sir.
And then when you came down here, is this the first day you've been down?
Yes, sir.
When you came down here today, you talked to one of the district attorneys before you took the stand?
I did.
Which one did you talk to?
I believe I talked to Sherry Lewis.
And that's a very nice lady over there, right?
Yes, that is correct.
When did you talk to her?
When did I talk to
Yes,
her?
yes.
This morning.
Have nothing further this morning, Your Honor.
Redirect.
All right, sir, when you indicated that the barking seemed to come from the area of Bundy and Dorothy, did you mean that precisely that corner, the very corner where Bundy and Dorothy intersect?
Sustain. It's leading.
What did you mean by that?
Oh, well, you can answer the question.
Basically, that was the general area that the sound was coming from. It would be very hard to pinpoint the exact location, so that is the closest corner, and that's what I used as my, my geographical pinpoint.
as a reference point?
That's all it was, yes, ma'am.
And in your opinion, is the location of 875 South Bundy in the general area of Bundy and Dorothy?
Yes, it is.
Now, you asked for permission to explain to us that statement in the police report about seeing the Jeep.
Object to form this question. It's argument started.
Overruled.
And would you like a chance to explain that?
Yes, very briefly, what happened was the two officers asked me if we could go out on the deck and take a look at the house. And we did this, and I assume the confusion arose from the fact that we were out on the deck and that there was a green Jeep that was being dusted for fingerprints in front of the Nicole Brown Simpson residence. And in their report, you know, they made a small mistake and assumed that I had gone out on the night in question.
I'm going to strike that.
Overruled.
And do you recall giving that explanation at the preliminary hearing when you were asked about this issue previously back in July?
I may have tried giving that explanation. I may not have made myself as clear as I would have liked to make myself.
Do you recall also being asked at the preliminary hearing back in July about the portion of the police report that indicates that you went out on the rear porch when you heard the barking? Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember being shown that report also.
And did you explain the discrepancy there as well?
Yes, I attempted to.
And do you recall what you explained to counsel back in July of 1994 about that discrepancy?
Object to the use of the word counsel. I was not there.
Mr. Shapiro was.
Overruled.
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
I thought we already explained that discrepancy.
No, Your Honor, what I'm trying to do is point out a prior consistent statement.
I'm sorry?
Prior consistent statement,
It's
12:35.
asked and answered. It's already covered.
but not by me.
It's still within its redundant. It's cumulative.
It's cumulative at this point.
May we approach?
Sure. All right, thank you, counsel. You may continue.
The objection overruled?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Your Honor. And back in July, did you indicate what the explanation was for that minor discrepancy about the rear, going out on the rear porch?
Conclusionary form.
It is conclusionary, the discrepancy.
The discrepancy.
Whether it's minor or major is for the jury to decide.
Yes, I did try to point it out.
And do you recall what the explanation was that you gave back in July at the preliminary hearing?
I believe I said something about a Jeep also, but I may have been confused and said it had been parked there a few days earlier. That's about all I remember.
Okay. Do you recall, I'm directing your attention now to the statement that counsel brought up about going out on the rear porch in response to hearing the barking.
Yes,
Okay. And you indicated to us that you didn't actually go out on the rear porch.
that is right. I did not go out on the rear.
Did you indicate an explanation at the time of the preliminary hearing back in July for what that misunderstanding might have been?
Yes, I think I said that I believe they may have been confused because we went out on the porch, we being the police and I, and looked toward the residence in question.
And did you point out a residence to them?
Yes, I did.
And what residence was that?
The one that we've seen photographs of.
Now, even though we can't see it from the angle of your apartment, nevertheless, that photograph People's 39 that you see now, that photograph, does it accurately depict the location that you looked in when you heard the barking?
Yes, yes, it does.
Just one object before that question. You can't even see that part of the building. That's the proper question.
Overruled. She asked if it depicts the building, not the particular view you saw. Objection's overruled.
Now, the Jeep that you see in this photograph, sir, People's 39, does that appear to be the same Jeep that you saw being dusted for fingerprints by the police on the morning of June the 13th?
It appears to be the same Jeep, yes.
And that's the one that you describe as green?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you recall being questioned during the preliminary hearing about what time you heard the dog barking, what time you began to hear it bark?
Yes, I do.
And I'm going to direct counsel's attention to page 27 at line 28, excuse me, lines 24, question, and it was about 20 or 25 minutes then into the newscast.
Hold on, Ms. Clark.
I'm sorry. This was the same page counsel just read from.
27, line 24.
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
I mean, yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
You were being cross-examined then by Mr. Ullman, and he asked you, and it was about 20 or 25 minutes then into the newscast that you first heard the dog, and your answer was no. I think it was about 15 or 20 minutes into, excuse me, there's 28, into the newscast that I first heard the dog. And then question, did you hear the dog continue to bark as you were watching the news? Answer, yes, I did. And then you were asked for about how long? You answered, 5 to 7 minutes, and then I left. Do you recall those questions and answers at the preliminary hearing?
Yes, I do.
And directing counsel's attention to page 25. Now, you've indicated to us previously, sir, that you've heard dogs barking in that neighborhood before.
That's correct.
So that in itself was not unusual.
Not unusual at all.
But now, on this particular night, the sound of this particular dog did draw your attention.
Yes, it did.
It was an unusual sound.
Yes, ma'am.
Then,
Overruled.
and directing counsel's attention to page 25, and you were asked the following question at line 16. So it was an unusual sounding bark to you. You answer, right. Question, that was about 10:15 to 10:20, and your answer, yes. And then question, did the barking stop or did it continue? Your answer, well, about this time, I stopped watching the news and went down to my office, and I did a little work, and I didn't come back upstairs until about 11 o'clock. Do you recall those questions and answers at the preliminary hearing?
Yes, I do.
And that is still your testimony, sir?
Yes, it is.
And on page 26, counsel, with reference to the time when you went back up to your room at 11 o'clock, you were asked about the barking you heard at that time. Question at line 18, did it sound like the same dog that you had heard barking earlier at 10:15 or so? And your answer, yes, it was definitely the same dog. Do you recall that question and answer?
Yes, I do.
And that is accurate?
Yes, it is.
And so is it your testimony, sir, that on the night of June the 12th, 1994, between 10:15 and 10:20, you began to hear a dog barking in an unusual way?
Overruled. Overruled.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, sir. I have nothing further.
Thank you.
Mr. Cochran?
Thank you. Now, counsel referring to the transcript at page 26, line 6, leave the photograph on, line 6 through 12. Do you have it, counsel? Question, and at 11 o'clock, can you tell us whether you still heard the dog barking? Answer, yes, the dog was still barking. I remember going over to the shutters and taking a look out toward Nicole's building, and I saw some lights on upstairs, but you know, of course, I couldn't pinpoint, where exactly the dog was. Did you so testify at the preliminary hearing?
Yes, I did.
And, sir,
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel didn't finish the passage. It goes on.
That was a question. It was a question and answer.
On page 31, counsel, beginning at the question at line 1 through the question at line 10. Question. Now, you indicate you went to bed at about 11:30. Answer, I went to bed a little after 11. Question, all right. Answer, and I read for a while. Question, and the dog continued to bark? Answer, yes, sir. Question, how long did that barking continue? Answer, until I fell asleep, which may have been 11:30 or 11:40 p.m. Now, I want you to take a look at that photograph of 39 again. I want you to look, can you see that clearly? It might, I don't know what your monitor has on it, but may I approach this monitor, Your Honor, to see? Thank you. Yes, yes, thank you, Your Honor. And then looking at that monitor, does that look like a dark green Jeep to you? Does it look like a black Jeep?
Well, I'm colorblind, so
Oh, well, then okay.
mildly colorblind.
Mildly? Do you have trouble discerning dark greens and blacks?
Yes.
Okay. So it was a dark colored Jeep, is that right?
Yes.
Are you a journalist of some kind?
I was for many years.
Were you back on June 12th, 1994?
No, I was not.
Journalist. You were no longer a journalist at that point?
No, sir, I'm not.
Okay. Thank you very kindly. Thank you for coming today.
Ms. Clark?
Very briefly. Mr. Fenjves, you were just asked by counsel on page 26 that you went over to the shutters, you saw some lights upstairs, you couldn't pinpoint exactly where the dog was. And that was in response to questioning about what you did when you heard the barking, where you looked, what direction you looked in. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And then question, so you were looking out towards where you heard the sound coming from of the dog barking. Answer, that's correct. And you question, and you looked toward Nicole's house? Answer, that is correct. Do you recall giving those answers to those questions, sir?
Yes, I do, Mayor.
And is that still your testimony, sir?
Yes, it is, Mayor.
I have nothing further.
One last question. When you said you looked toward Nicole's house, you didn't know it was Nicole's house at that time. Somebody told you that. Is that right?
That's correct.
Who told you that?
Well, obviously, in the course of the,
Who told you that?
I can't remember. I mean, it was basically international news.
Nothing further?
Ms. Clark?
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Fenjves, thank you very much for coming in today. I'm going to excuse you from further testimony at this time. Please don't discuss your testimony with anybody else except for the lawyers until the case is over. Do you understand the order, sir? All right, thank you very much. All right, next witness. Or you want to call it a day? Who do you have next? Why don't you approach? All right, thank you, counsel. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for the afternoon at this time. Please remember my admonition to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves in any way. Don't form any opinions about the case. Don't allow anybody to talk to you about the case. Don't perform any deliberations until the matter has been submitted to you at the end of the case. All right, have a pleasant evening. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Thank you. All right, Mr. Cochran, you had some comment you wanted to make to the court.
Yes, just a passing and kind of a last comment for the day, Your Honor. Ms. Clark is wearing some jewelry today, which looks very, very similar to the jewelry worn by, or the pin worn by Ms. Denise Brown. She had two of them the other day, and I think that it's inappropriate for counsel to be wearing the same thing as the witnesses, as though this is like some kind of a, I don't know how I might phrase it, but I think it's inappropriate. And I called it to Your Honor's attention earlier, and I'd just like to make the record. I think it's inappropriate, given the fact that certainly Ms. Brown can wear whatever she wants to wear, but when we see counsel coming into the courtroom wearing it, I think it's inappropriate.
All right,
so
just for the record, you made your objection when we were at a sidebar conference this afternoon without the court reporter, correct?
That is correct, so I wanted to indicate
About
that.
an hour ago.
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, well, what are you proposing?
She take it off and not wear it anymore. I don't think that's appropriate. I think you made it clear we're not to wear any badges or buttons or anything of any support. I would be if we came into court and I wore a big number 32 and go walking around here with this jury. I wouldn't do that. It's just like she's wearing this the day after Ms. Denise Brown gets on the stand. And they made some motion about some earring, which has this angel, and she had two angels on her shoulder. I don't think it's appropriate. That's all I'm saying.
Ms. Clark?
Any human emotion.
Do you want to describe the item in question first so the record's clear?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. It's about maybe 3/4 of an inch big. It's a very small little angel.
Angel, gold angel with wings.
Angel with wings, with arms outstretched. Too small for any detail to be seen by the jury, certainly. I am really shocked at counsel's denunciation of nothing more than human emotion and sympathy. If sympathy is so shocking to counsel, then I wonder why he goes out and speaks of sympathy in in such glorious tones when he's interviewed by the press every day on the steps of the courthouse. If obviously what Mr. Cochran thinks is that what's sauce for the goose is not sauce for the gander. This is a very small and very tasteful show of support in compared to all of the jewelry and the pins Mr. Cochran wears every day, which he does and is visible to the jury. But not only that, but of all the constant barrage of publicity that he engages in, sympathetic to his client, sympathetic to his witnesses, denouncing the people's case and the people's witnesses and the victims in his own in insidious ways, I think it's very inappropriate for him, of all people, to come forward to this court and complain to something as minor as showing support for the family of the victims in a symbolic way that is not proclaiming like wearing the number 32. It's a very small show of support that is very tasteful, very understated, and nothing nearly as prejudicial as the remarks he makes constantly to the press and the press conferences he tries to hold in court as well as outside of the court. I think that if anyone should come forward and make this argument, it should be one with clean hands, and we don't have one on that side of counsel table. So I would strongly urge the court to deny this ridiculous request, and yet another request to suppress any sympathy or human emotion that may be appropriately given to the side of the victims, who, after all, are two young people who were brutally murdered.
Absolutely, Your Honor. I join in the sympathy for the victims, but Your Honor said we were not to wear buttons, badges, or whatever. The next day she shows up with it. Now, she can say all she wants to say. Our jury is sequestered. Any statements that we're asked when we leave this courthouse, our jurors never see. But she's parading, walking back and forth, showing clothes 200 times today with that madam, that angel.
Mr. Cochran, those kinds of arguments about he did this and she did that and pointing fingers back and forth on all the other transgressions, real or imaginary, don't really persuade me one way or the other. The issue is the lapel pin that Ms. Clark has, whether or not it is identifiable with one side or the other. Ms. Clark concedes that it is. She says that it's an expression of support. So isn't it really a legal issue as to this pin and not about all these other things on one side or the other?
Focus. It's been a long day, and I appreciate the court focusing me back on this issue. The issue is your order to all of us to comply with, and she's violating that order. She can engage in all the self-serving rhetoric she wants to, but the issue is you told us not to do that, and nobody. She can be supportive, and I want her to be supportive. As a representative of the people, she represents all of us, so that's fine. She can do her job. She's a fine lawyer. But she doesn't have to wear this pin because it's inappropriate. Because you told us not to do it. That's pure and simple. And so I ask you to do something about it. It has nothing to do with any of the sympathy toward the victims. It's your order, and it was entirely and appropriately made. What happens in this courtroom is very appropriate, not outside, because our jury sees this as opposed to anything that happens outside the courtroom. That's why they're sequestered.
Your Honor, if this were a badge or a button that had the pictures of the victims on it, I could understand counsel's concern. But, you know, this is nothing but symbolic. I'm sure that the jurors don't have any idea what it means. Only it is something that is known within the families. It may be indeed known to the public now, but as Mr. Cochran said, the jury is sequestered. It is a symbolic gesture, but not one that is palpable to the jury. It's very small. I don't even know if the jury can tell it's an angel from the distance they're at from me. And I think the court can rest assured that there is no prejudice that's inuring to the defense as a result of this, and I even find counsel's concern in this regard remarkable. Some little pin that the jury can barely see me wear has got him all excited today. I just don't understand it, especially in view of the conduct of counsel. If there's anything that's inappropriate in this case, it's the conduct of counsel before this jury and the kind of speaking objections we're constantly getting and the press conferences that counsel's always trying to hold wherever he goes. So I really... And as my learned co-counsel points out accurately, Mr. Cochran is always coming into court wearing a cross. You know, I mean, these are all symbols and gestures. His symbol is even more explicit. You know, I mean, if we're going to take off pins, everybody take off pins.
What I'm wearing today, I wear pins.
Mr. Cochran, you have a wide assortment of lapel pins.
And my pins are not identified with O.J. Simpson, Your Honor. And so that they protest too much again, Your Honor. I point out, as an officer of the court, what you had told us not to do. And what she fails to understand is she's wearing this in court where the jurors can see it. And if you recall, She tried to elicit testimony from Miss Denise Brown about the earring, wearing the one earring and why. We stopped that. She tried to elicit testimony why she was wearing this stuff right here in court. So this is an orchestrated thing. So we have an obligation for our client to bring this out. We brought it out, Your Honor. I'm not going to belabor it any further, and she can make these long speeches, but the fact remains she has it on. She shouldn't have it on. She knows she shouldn't have it on, and we ask you to rule on it.
Well, I don't know any such thing, but let me explain one thing to the court. The counsel's misrepresenting completely. We were asking Ms. Brown to testify to the fact that Nicole wore mismatched earrings, one dangly, one stud, not an angel at all. The counsel gets all excited and gets worried, about the fact that the jury, no. Counsel still has it wrong. All we wanted from Denise was to testify that she wore mismatched earrings because they found one dangle and one stud on Nicole. That's all. And because counsel's so worried about this jury, God forbid, feeling sympathetic to two young people who were murdered, they're jumping all over us before they even know what the answer to the question might be. But the truth of the matter is, we were not going to elicit any testimony about an angel. Rest assured of that. We were going to elicit only the testimony I've indicated, and it was an appropriate thing to do, given counsel's insistence on trying to portray this as a robbery or burglary murder. And that's all we were trying to do.
See, to my recollection, we've only had one member of the Brown family testify thus far, correct?
That's correct.
I saw a similar, although not identical, piece of jewelry that Denise Brown had.
Right.
I don't recall if the Goldman family wears the same jewelry. I did not notice anything on Kimberly Goldman.
No, I didn't either.
Although, to tell you the truth, jewelry is not my forte as somebody who wears plastic watches. I mean, this is not something I pay attention to. Ms. Clark, my concern, though, is your concession that it is a show of support. And if either family is wearing these as some symbol, then, and if it is possible for the jury to identify it as such, then it's probably not appropriate. And if the family members are going to further testify and wear these things in court, I agree with you, they are very subtle and they're very small, but I don't believe it's appropriate for counsel to wear one of these. All right.
Then, I don't know who's wearing it anymore, Your Honor. If we could ask the court to defer its ruling until we see what the families look like in the morning?
Well, counsel, I've told you, I feel it's inappropriate. I plan on doing another Lexis search on these types of things, but I think in the morning I'm going to reaffirm the ruling.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, counsel. Let me see you briefly without the report, please. Hold on. All right, can we have it quiet, please? Ms. Clark, you have a witness you want ordered back?
Yes, thank you.
Who was that?
Eva Stein, Louis Karp, Sukru Bostepi, Stephen Schwab.
All right, Ms.
Sorry
Clark.
about that. Eva Stein, Louis Karp, K-A-R-P-F, Sukru Bostepi, common spelling, Stephen Schwab.
All right, each of you is ordered to return to this courthouse tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m., report to the district attorney's office. Do you each understand the order? Are they all not in the affirmative? Mr. Bostepi, do you understand that? All right, thank you very much. All right, let me see counsel without the report, please.